It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft. Thank you so much for joining us today. We begin today just a few short steps outside of our studio doors as West Bloomfield Schools continues construction on the brand new Chico Elementary School, soon to begin a new era of lifelong memories in their loving community. But before the doors open in just a little over a year, those memories are being placed at the very core of Chico's new home. Civic Center TV reporter Jake Schaff is live outside of the construction zone with more. Jake.
Hey, Tyler. Great to see you on this wonderful June morning. I am standing right outside of Chico Elementary School, where the construction is continuing to take place. You can see quite a lot of foundation has gone up with the building. A lot of progress has been made over the last few months. But as construction progresses at Chico Elementary, the staff have gone beyond the physical structure to lay a meaningful foundation rooted in love and care. In a heartfelt gesture, the staff has inscribed messages of encouragement, hope, and support onto red heart-shaped cutouts. These symbolic tokens were then placed within the masonry walls of the building, ensuring that their dedication and compassion are quite literally built within the school. And you can take a look on Civic Center TV right now. We are showing you some photos from the construction site of what has been going on, but lots of heartfelt dedications and lots of great gestures for this incredible school as construction continues to take place here right alongside Walnut Lake Road, Tyler. Lots of great things taking place.
More information and updates on the Chico Elementary School construction can be found on West Bloomfield School District's website, wbsd.org, as well as on their Facebook at West Bloomfield Schools. Jake, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate it. Again, West Bloomfield Schools, the Facebook page for even more pictures from out at Chico Elementary School as that building continues to go up and is expected to open in the beginning of the 2026 school year. So still a little over a year away from the opening of that school. Late last week, the end of an era as the class of 2025 turned their tassels and officially graduated from West Bloomfield High School. This year's class was particularly accomplished, as detailed by class representatives Grace Hakeem and Alina Gwynn.
This year, our class was awarded over $14 million in scholarships, a true reflection of the hard work and determination we've shown. In addition, 138 seniors took part in over 300 AP exams, preparing themselves for the future academic challenges ahead.
Our theater program had a standout year, earning recognition at the Michigan International Thespian Society Festival. Our senior thespians received 3 excellent awards and 8 superior awards across multiple categories. Our athletes were just as impressive. 108 senior scholar athletes will be graduating with a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or better. An outstanding 34 of them will graduate with a cumulative GPA of 4.0 or better, and 27 student athletes signed their national letters of intent to continue playing intercollegiate sports next year.
Just a treasure trove of accomplishments for athletes, for academics, and everything in between, art as well, for the class of 2025. But with any rite of passage comes a new outlook on life with a special wisdom that we pick up along the way. Before they parted, class of 2025 President Carly Lyons had a lasting message for her classmates about their journey growing up and how their lessons from high school can help them navigate the incoming challenges of adulthood.
I'm talking about the quiet moments and small changes, the kind you don't even notice until you stop and look back. We came in as freshmen worried about getting lost in the hallways, which, by the way, are literally a series of big squares, wondering where to sit at lunch and whether asking a question in class would make us seem stupid or like we were trying too hard. And now, somehow, we're here, walking across this stage both confident and capable. That growth did not happen all at once, like the flip of a light switch. It was subtle. It was the way we learned to laugh off a bad grade, the way we chose to sleep at night instead of during class, in the way we learned to express ourselves, even ideas that felt so complex. We learned that sometimes the hardest part of growing is outgrowing the version of ourselves we thought we had to be.
Lastly, an uplifting speech and message from one of the class of 2025's most accomplished athletes, Ava Lord, who learned to be a champion through failure and encouraged her peers to embrace their trials along the journey ahead.
Perseverance is more than just a word. It is a way of life. It's about embracing challenges, enduring setbacks, and remaining committed to our goals, even when our path is filled with difficulties and obstacles. If you have not yet noticed, life is not a straight line. It's an unpredictable, winding path full of twists and turns. Failures and rejection and disappointment are sure to come, but it's up to us and how we fight through it all. Although remember, these little moments do not define who we are as a person. It's how we choose to respond to the difficulties and the failures. During my time as a West Bloomfield High School student, I chose to do things that I knew would challenge me and make me grow to become a better person. I knew the path would have challenges, but I still was not prepared for how tough it would be. I learned that every setback was an opportunity to learn and to grow and to push forward to get one step closer to success, as well as learning that embracing failure is essential to progress. I want us to remember that as we move forward on our own paths, remember that perseverance is not just about relentless determination. It is about resilience. It's about recognizing that stumbling is a part of our journeys, and asking for help or seeking guidance when we feel lost is a sign of strength, not weakness.
You can watch the full commencement ceremony of the West Bloomfield High School class of 2025 on civiccentertv.com/WBHS graduation 25. Again, civiccentertv.com/WBHS graduation 25, a laundry list of accomplishments. We only showed you a little over a minute from the class accomplishments that were about a 5-minute speech in and of themselves, and in great speeches from Carly and Ava alike. One more time, civiccentertv.com/WBHS graduation 25. Congratulations. The class of 2025 certainly left a lasting impact on West Bloomfield High School, taking a hands-on approach to learning with their signature determination and curiosity. Here with even more insight on this historic graduating class is West Bloomfield High School Principal Eric Pace. Mr. Pace, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk about the class of 2025, as you also have an opportunity now to, and as do your colleagues at West Bloomfield High School, to reflect on their 4 years at West Bloomfield. We talk so much about the academic accomplishments, the artistic and the athletic accomplishments, but in your opinion, having witnessed their journey along these 4 years, what do you think ultimately defines this graduating class?
Yeah, I would narrow it down to 2 words, leadership and resilience. So this group, as we watched them navigate these last 4 years, really made the school their own, are role models for the classes below them, and took it upon themselves to kind of expand the culture and the spirit here within the high school, overcoming any obstacles that came their way, but really it was a palpable feeling of excitement with this group.
Yeah, resilience and leadership, we tie back to just thinking 4 years ago, 2021, we're just getting back into the classroom after the COVID-19 pandemic, and the class of 2025 had the unique perspective of being that class that reacclimates themselves to the in-school environment while learning to be high school students without necessarily being able to witness what that looked like pre and post pandemic. They get to set the tone. So how do you think that this class did that in the 4 years that they had post pandemic?
Yeah, what's interesting is I used to work in at Abbott Middle School, which is now Chico, and middle school is really about social development and learning how to interact with your peers, with your schooling, as you grow up to be a teenager and an adult. And so these students that just graduated, their middle school experience was abbreviated and it was different. And so when they came in as high schoolers, they had missed out on some of the social learning. They came in academically prepared and demonstrated that right away. And so what they were able to do is lean on each other to navigate what it's like to be a teenager and to encounter, peer conflict and celebration, changing of friends. And they did that really with grace. And, it was their opportunity and they took full advantage of it to leave that mark here on the school and show everybody else how to do it.
And along the way, they had their own set of individual and collective accomplishments too, especially as they noticed some of the issues that were affecting their classmates and affecting their community, and in many ways took direct charge themselves to address those issues. I think about the recognition of WB Has Heart over the last year or so, addressing cardiac arrest in students of their age. I think about the millions upon millions of dollars that were just announced in the last 2 weeks for the class of 2025 in scholarships. I think what I've observed, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the class of 2025's approach to their learning has been really to take the reins themselves and not wait around for the opportunity to have the experiences that they're looking for in life.
You're exactly right. They were, even as freshmen, they were not the immature, naive, and kind of waiting scared group. They really, even at our PEP assemblies, right, where we have class competitions, they gave the seniors a run for their money right away. And you could tell it was a very special group who, like you said, isn't going to wait around for anybody else to tell them how to feel or what to do. They make it their own, and they lead in the way that they do it. So it was really exciting and really fun, honestly, to be their principal for those 4 years, because they taught me a lot, too, on what we can expect in terms of culture and what we can expect in terms of student behavior, and really, it hit the ground running as 14 and 15-year-olds when they're freshmen.
And that's an interesting point that you make, too, that they teach educators like yourself a little bit about the job, because much like you said, when you were a middle school educator, that's a lot about social development. High school is really about getting them ready to the day after they graduate. They're adults. They got to be able to take control of their own life day to day. But from seeing and observing their approach to their learning, their approach to addressing issues that are important to them, how does that maybe redefine for you and for your colleagues at West Bloomfield High School how you approach the class of 2026, 27, and so on?
Yeah, I think we all try and learn each year. And from this group, we learned that the power of student voice and the power of their grit and determination. So, as we move forward into the coming years, to lean on the students themselves for what they want school to be, what they can get out of it, and then try and maximize that in terms of outcomes for them. It's their school, and we're all here to make sure that they get everything they can out of it. And so to lean on that early, to listen, collect feedback, and then make adjustments to give them all that they can take.
What do you hope, if there are a certain number of qualities that the class of 2026, as they now rise into the position of senior leadership in West Bloomfield High School, what do you hope that they continue on from the class of 2025 to continue to improve an already very impressive student body at West Bloomfield High School?
Yeah, we already have, you mentioned the WB Has Heart, for example. So we've got some 11th grade students that have really stepped into some leadership roles. I would say to expand upon and continue the service to our community, our school community and our greater community. That's something that, as one of the larger organizations within West Bloomfield, we have a lot of capability and opportunity to have a lot of influence. And so the students themselves have already taken it upon themselves to step into that role, and I would love to see that expand. Same with our National Honor Society students, with their community outreach and volunteering, service organizations that we have in terms of clubs. So really that give back to the community to help lift everyone.
So now the school year's coming to a close. The seniors are gone soon. The rest of your students will conclude their 2024-2025 school year. So when does that change for the educators? When you get to this point of the year, how do you get yourself to the finish line? And then when can you take a break and relax after all these months of learning yourself?
I'll take a break when I retire. That's how that works. But
Yeah.
For our educators and our students, right, this is our last week of instruction. We have a full day of school today and tomorrow, and then we do 3 days of half days for final exams. So, at this point in time, the hard work's done. Now it's just preparing and executing to demonstrate that proficiency and mastery of knowledge. So, it's an exciting time. It can be a little stressful, but it's an exciting time. Obviously, as we go into a summer break, but also for students to show us all what they can do.
So the education never stops. You are encouraging
No.
lifelong learners, certainly at West Bloomfield High School. I know that in the school district across the board, that really is one of the hallmarks of your goals from kindergarten all the way through the conclusion of 12th grade. So as these students from the class of 2025 have now moved on, they've graduated, they're going to be going on to their work life, their continued education. What lasting message do you have for them as they take these first steps into their adult life?
Yeah, I referenced it in my speech at graduation, but it's upon them now to take what they've learned, what they know, what their experiences are, and make change for the better. They have all the tools. They've demonstrated that time and again, and we're looking for people who are gonna let their voice be heard, fight for things that matter. And if you look around you throughout the world, we're in need of people who want to give back to the community and who want to lead us to be unified and to make change for the better, no matter what that is. And so I think this group is well prepared to do that, and I just can't wait to see it happen.
More information on the West Bloomfield High School class of 2025 can be found on WBSD.org. You can also follow them for more information on things happening across the school district on Facebook at West Bloomfield Schools. Principal Eric Pace from West Bloomfield High School with us as we look back on the graduating class of 2025. Principal Pace, before we let you go, anything else you'd like to say today?
I really wanted to say thanks to our community. The way that they show up at our events and support us through either financial sponsorships for different events or, service. It's really nice to work jointly as a community. So from those that are retired and in their final home, or those that are just moving into the township and all the businesses in between, it really is nice to work in a community where we're all on the same page in terms of developing our young leaders and sending them out to the world to do great things.
That conversation certainly continues on WBSD.org and at all their events all throughout the year, including the first time you'll get to see kind of the whole community come together at Family Fun Night at West Bloomfield High School this fall. Principal Pace, thank you so much for your time today.
Anytime, Tyler. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Once again, you can watch the entire commencement ceremony of the class of 2025 on civiccentertv.com/WBHS Graduation 25. While you're there, look up Honors Convocation, the West Bloomfield Youth Assistance Youth Recognition Awards. Gives you really good insight into some of the many accomplishments both in and outside of the classroom of the class of 2025. As for Principal Pace, I hope that he has taken the weekend to get out of the rhythm of grab the diploma, shake the hand, pose for a picture. Did that for almost an hour on Thursday last week at the graduation ceremony. I don't know how you get out of that rhythm. When you're relaxing on the couch on Sundays this fall, you're very likely going to see plenty of familiar faces on NFL rosters. A handful of West Bloomfield football alums, including champions like Makari Page, Max Hairston, and Donovan Edwards, all are either on or competing for their shot at the NFL. Recently, Civic Center TV's Jake Schaff had the opportunity to speak to a very familiar face, the man who led the renaissance of Laker football himself, now University of Michigan assistant football coach Ron Bellamy. Here's their conversation about some of the greatest Lakers to ever don the anchor.
Ron, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I am very, very excited to be getting into this conversation because you had a first-hand look at the early development of all the players I just said. Donovan Edwards, Makari Page, Max Hairston, even Javon Foster, who got drafted last year. What stood out about their character and work ethic all the way back in high school?
Those guys, first and foremost, before I talk about their, athletic attributes, really good people, great families, miss them dearly, being around them daily. Their constant, mindset of just making other people around them better. They understood that the more competitive we made our environment, the better they were going to be, the better their teammates were going to be. But just awesome people. And, I'm really, truly blessed for them and, happy for them and for their blessings.
That's right. You should be very, very proud of yourself to see all of the work that these guys have done in making it into the NFL. And each of these players took a very unique path to get to where they are. Could you share what you remember most about their growth journeys and what set them apart, even all the way back when they were teenagers?
Yeah, it's a common denominator, right? With all the guys is they believed. They came to West Bloomfield. You know that you're going to get a great education. You know that you're going to compete at the highest level, and you're going to have people that's going to support you in all your endeavors. And each one of those young men, they chase greatness, and right now they're reaping the rewards.
That's right. Each and every one of them is off to a great start, and we can't wait to see what's to come from them as they begin their NFL journeys. Now, when you made the jump over to Michigan College, you continued working with a couple of these players as they also made their way to Michigan College, including Donovan Edwards, who in particular made a very big name for himself when he was at Michigan. Did you always see that dual threat personality from somebody like him?
Yeah, I was myself and a couple of coaches at West B. We've had the kids since middle school. We were middle school basketball coaches. So I was always around Donovan. When I did my student teaching, I was around him in elementary school. So Donovan and I have always had a strong relationship. And, it's going to be weird this upcoming fall because it's going to be the first time that we have not been on the same team in 10 years.
I know, that's right. Donovan has already cemented himself and has made himself a place on the New York Jets. And another person who made the jump from West Bloomfield to Michigan is Makari Page, who's going to be playing for the New York Giants. I believe we do have a photo from Makari's signing day where you talked about how much potential he has and what you see for him in the future. What was Makari's mentality like in high school and college, and how would you say it's carried over to the next level?
In high school, the high school prepares the kids not only for athletics, but prepares them for academically and life outside of football. And, the transition from Makari and both he and Donovan was very seamless. Makari came in academically, had no distractions, although he came in during COVID. A tough period for most of us, all of us, I should say. Makari came in and he did what he was supposed to do academically, and then obviously limited the distractions. And on the football field, he played early on in his career and, just had great success. And, he's one of those guys that, he has a great future ahead of himself. And a lot of it is, his family. He comes from an unbelievable family and, he just followed the script. He believed in the people around him and, he executed everything, flawlessly, and that's why he's in a position, to craft out a career in the NFL. Love him to death.
I know. Makari, Donovan, both going to be doing great things in the NFL, but of course we also have to talk about Maxwell Hairston, first round draft pick. Maxwell Hairston, might I add, who quietly blossomed into a standout defensive back at Kentucky. Now, it's been a while since you worked with him, since he was at West Bloomfield High School, but what can you say about Maxwell's development and the kind of player he's become?
Well, I love him. I am not shocked. I am not shocked, to say the least. That's one of the things that I got a ton of calls from NFL front office guys throughout Max's draft process, because those guys do extensive interviewing and whatnot. And, especially with me being at the collegiate level now, it's like, hey, you've known Maxwell for a long period of time. What are, some of the things that make him who he is? And first and foremost, he's a great person. We all witnessed that at the draft. Although he went the latter part of the first round, you watched him congratulate all the young men that went before him. And Maxwell's always been like that. And the big thing about Max that's so cool, and for anyone listening, just one thing I always say is don't give up on your dreams. Maxwell has a unique story in the sense that, he too, him and Donovan Edwards were middle school teammates and friends at the middle school level. And Max was always a small guy. Basketball was his first love. And as he got older, he played football, but football wasn't on the level that basketball was. As he got older and he wasn't growing and some of the kids were growing, I remember him saying, Coach, I want to commit more to football. And I said, all right, this is the place to do it. We're the guys to help you accomplish what you need to do. And he bought into it. And, Maxwell hit that growth spurt, got bigger, got really good at football, and went to Kentucky, picked Kentucky, and at the time I was still at WB, and just kind of helped guide him and his family through that process. And when he signed and we won a state championship, there was no doubt about it in my mind that he was going to be successful there and successful competing in the SEC. And to see him go first round, that's something that he always envisioned and something that I thought he can accomplish.
That's absolutely right. And I talked about this when we had Zach Hilbers on the show right after the draft, where Max's attitude and his personality is just so infectious. And you saw him congratulating all of the first-round draft picks as they were making their way out onto the stage. I mean, he's already shown the kind of player that he is, and I cannot wait to see what he's able to do as he plays for the Buffalo Bills in the NFL. Now, Ron, you're in a very unique position because you have also had some NFL experience. You had some time playing for the Miami Dolphins and even the hometown team Detroit Lions. As somebody who's played in the NFL, what do you have to say on what might be next for some of these players?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is find your role, create a role for yourself. Understand that this isn't like college. This is a business, 100% business. And, the NFL is always looking for who are the best players that can help my organization win for the various organizations the guys are on. And the advice that I told all our guys, we have, 7 guys that play for West Bloomfield are currently in the NFL. And, the one thing that we told them was, make sure you keep your head on tight. Just make sure you limit the distractions, have fun because it's still football, but, go out there and compete every day. Have an open mind, compete and dream, dream big. Because usually when you dream, you can chase them and you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. And, I'm proud of all the boys that that are in the NFL and the ones that are in college, and just go keep chasing your dreams. We love them, and they know they're going to have our support.
I love that. Those are the true words of a football coach. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, I'm talking with Ron Bellamy, the former head coach of West Bloomfield High School football, who now works as a wide receivers coach and pass game coordinator for the Michigan Wolverines, talking about his thoughts on so many West Bloomfield High School alumni making the jump into the NFL, like Donovan Edwards, Makari Page, and Maxwell Hairston. Now, I'm curious, Ron, have any of them reached out to you for advice or just to say thank you as they take this next big step into the NFL?
Yeah, I try to do a good job of keeping in touch with them daily, all of them. Whether it's Matthew Judon, Khalid Kareem, Tristan Jackson, Javon Foster, and, just a new batch of guys that have entered the NFL. I talk to all of them, daily. We talk about life. Some of them are old enough now where they're having their own families and, getting married and just trying to get them some advice from, they always looked at me as a big brother, uncle, father figure kind of guy. And, just because they're in the NFL and they're removed from high school doesn't change that. The one thing I always told our young men, was we're forever connected. We're forever connected. We're always going to be a family. I'm always love you guys. I'm going to follow your paths, not just your professional paths, but your personal, your life endeavors. And, I love them extremely. Each and every young man and young lady, we've had a few young ladies in the program that, have entered, have played in our football program. I love them dearly, and I follow them all to this day, on the various social media sites. And, each young man kind of has his own thoughts about things and advice that they ask. And, I give them experiences that I've gone through or things that, I've heard about. But, it's their path, their journey. I told them I'm here for them, just I'm an ear, or if I need to make a phone call, that's easy. So they know that, we're always going to be connected.
I absolutely love that. You're helping these kids out every single step of the way. And I'd imagine not just the West Bloomfield alumni, but everyone who's come to University of Michigan that's going to the NFL, like Blake Corum or like J.J. McCarthy, all big names that are sure to make an impact on the NFL. Ron, I could talk to you for so long about this topic, but we are running short on time. I'm going to wrap this up with one more quick question. How proud are you, not just as a coach, but as someone who helped shape their foundation to see all of these athletes chasing their dreams at the NFL level?
Extremely proud. I've had some great mentors in my life, some great coaches, great teachers, great, just a great community around me. And those young men had the same thing, and still do. And I'm extremely proud of them because, everything that we asked of them in high school, they did. The things that we told them they're going to be challenged with at the collegiate level, they answered to, and the cool thing about it was I have personal relationships with each person that it was bumpy, right? Nothing was totally smooth throughout their careers, but the guys face adversity and they answer to it. And this day and age, man, a lot of people they face adversity, they run from it, and our guys attacked it. And I think that like I said, I keep going back to the family foundation. Each one of these young men has a strong, family bond, and they have a strong faith, and these guys, they kept that first and foremost. We always say faith, family, football. And, those guys have answered that, and that's why they're in a position playing at the highest of highest levels. And, I'm praying for them each and every day that they enjoy the experience. Like I said, it's their jobs now, but they understand that it's a blessing. Less than 1% of the population consider NFL football players, and, they're there. So now just, get to work, embrace it, and have fun, and then play it as long as you possibly can.
That's absolutely right. A lot of hard work to do, but they can celebrate right now for what they've been able to accomplish, and they have you to thank for all of that. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Thank you for having me. Miss and love you guys, and, continue to follow you.
Always good to hear from a familiar name like Ron Bellamy. Great to see him back with us here on Civic Center TV as he continues his success at the University of Michigan and as a coach overall. It's always a big accomplishment when you get those 7 players now in the NFL, many on rosters already and many soon to earn their spots as well. Been hearing great things out of the company in Gang Green with Donovan Edwards apparently doing great in their mini camps so far in New York with the Jets. Very likely going to have his shot to make that team over the course of the training camp season. We'll keep you up to date on all of that, and you can, of course, stay up to date with West Bloomfield football on your home for Lakers sports, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Summer is here, but football will be here in the blink of an eye, so stay tuned for even more. Yes, it's already June, which means soon the weekends will be accompanied by the consistent hum of engines and excited voices of neighbors enjoying a day out on their beloved lakes. But before your boat takes its first splash, it's always best to brush up on what to do to keep your summer fun safe. I spoke with Oakland County Sheriff's Lieutenant Brian Burwell to learn more about boating safety for the 2025 season. Here's our conversation. Lieutenant Burwell, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Happy to have you on, and the Sheriff's Office as well, because you are leading the charge in many of our communities here in Greater West Bloomfield and surrounding areas, keeping our lakes safe and patrolled over the summer season. It's a really busy time of the year, especially now that we're after Memorial Day. We're in that unofficial summer season, soon to be official in late June. So as people get ready to go out on their boats this summer season, what are some of the most common mistakes you see boaters make and others enjoying our lakes over the summer season?
Probably the thing we see the most out there is people running out of fuel on the boat. Also, not checking the weather before they go out. One of the things we always remind people is right before you take that boat out, especially at the start of the season, take a few minutes to go through all the cabins and all the spaces on your boat. Make sure all your equipment's there. Check your life jackets. Make sure, life jackets are in good working shape. Check the buckles, check the straps. Maybe it's time to replace them. Make sure, you have Coast Guard approved life jackets. Make sure you have your throw device, your fire extinguishers are charged up. Take a few minutes to go through and make sure you have that equipment. Also, make sure you're always, if you are out on the lake, make sure you are swimming in designated swim areas. Those areas are safe for swimmers to be in.
And you mentioned just a moment ago some of these items like life preservers especially are a given. They're some of the most important things that everybody should have with them on their boat, and in some cases have one for each person in their vessel at a given time. What would you say are the top 3 pieces of safety-related equipment that people should always have with them on their boat, and how do they directly each contribute to keeping our boaters and others having fun on our boats safe this summer?
all safety equipment's important and required by the law, but, making sure you have a working fire extinguisher, making sure your horn is working, making sure those life jackets are size appropriate, making sure that, you check the label to make sure the weight and the person you're putting in that life jacket understands how to put the life jacket on. So especially with children, making sure they're in the right life jacket, making sure it fits them properly, making sure that life jacket's in good working shape. We always tell people, just like a seatbelt in the car, life jackets don't work if you don't wear them. So it's important to have those life jackets, make sure they're easily accessible. So if their emergency arises, make sure you know where the equipment is in the boat. Make sure you have a throwable device on the boat. Again, making sure right before you leave that dock, you check the weather. Make sure loved ones and family members know where you're going when you head out on the lake. Make sure that if you're heading out to the lake, people know where you're going to be, what time you plan on returning, where you're parking your vehicle at, things like that. So if you don't return in that timely manner and they do have to call the sheriff's office or the local police or fire, that we have a starting point to know where to start searching for you. Obviously, alcohol consumption on the lake is always a problem. Drink in moderation. When you're on a vessel or on a boat, alcohol is going to affect you a little bit more because you're in the elements. The sun's on you. The movement of the boat, you're dehydrating a little quicker. People don't always realize how much alcohol is affecting them on the water. So certainly drink in moderation. And, remember, as the captain of those boats, you're responsible for everybody who's going on that boat to get them back in safely.
Oakland County Sheriff's Lieutenant Brian Burwell is with us on the Splash Live. As we get ready for boating season in the greater West Bloomfield community, perhaps you're seeing this after we're already well underway and you're just trying to get some helpful tips before you make your way to the water. Great advice from our friends at the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. And Lieutenant Burwell, a lot of people will go out on motorboats on our various lakes across greater West Bloomfield, but there's so many different vessels that people may be on. Some people like the sort of so-called speedboats. They like to be on sailboats on those windier days, or they're just on personal watercraft like jet skis. So depending on the vessel, how do some of those safety measures change?
Well, we always tell people to, take a boater safety class. We offer them free here at the Sheriff's Office monthly. It's so important to understand the rules of the waterway and to take that boater safety class to understand what the law requires you to do and understand the rules of the lake. When you're out on a boat, understanding your surroundings, what's around you, being mindful of people in the water. And that's what goes back to with swimming in a designated swim area. If you're not, if you're jumping off the side of a boat in the water, if you don't know the depth on, you don't know what's below the surface, other boats are in the area. So again, really try and get people to remember that those swim areas are put there for a reason. Make sure you're swimming in a designated swim area. Again, watching your alcohol consumption. If you are on whether it's a PWC, a personal watercraft, or in a speedboat or in a pontoon boat, exercising that caution. And again, drinking in moderation. If you are going to choose to consume alcohol on the lake, making sure you're not over the limit and you're being responsible.
And of course, Lieutenant Burwell, we live in Michigan. Michigan summers, while usually hot and muggy, they have their variety of weather. We get some colder days in there. We certainly get some stormy days that can be quite treacherous in their own right. How should weather contribute to people's plans before they hit the waterways?
We've had a few boating accidents and drownings occur where people ventured out on a lake and did not realize a storm was coming in. And, before they knew it, they found themselves, even on our smaller inland lakes here, they found themselves in a situation that they were unprepared for, and that storm's coming in with heavy rain, and they just weren't prepared for it. So making sure checking a weather app before you go out, so you understand if lightning and thunderstorms are rolling in. They do roll in quicker than people sometimes realize, and just taking time to check them weather apps and making sure before you go out on the lake, you have good weather, and that if a thunderstorm is coming in, that you have enough time to safely get off the water and get back to shore and get back to your car, or at least the storm passes.
Lieutenant Brian Burwell is with us from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Plenty of more information can be found on their website, oakgov.com/sheriff. If you want to learn more about boater safety courses, as Lieutenant Burwell mentioned, offered free monthly all throughout the summer season. Really great opportunity, even if you are an experienced boater, to get that refresher before you hit the water or when you're in the middle of the season. And Lieutenant Burwell, it's also really important to understand that while there are some general rules and some general precautions that people can take, we have a variety of different waterways. They're under many different jurisdictions locally and across the state. How important is it for people to understand the differences between the rules in one area versus another before they get on the water?
You always want to go out on water you're familiar with and make sure you take time to know where there might be hazards on the water, understanding if you're going out on maybe some of the larger lakes like Lake St. Clair, Lake Huron, you understand where you're going, how you're going to get back, relying on the fact that if you have a GPS unit, it's always important to have a cell phone with you and some type of communication. Again, letting people know when you're going to be departing, when you should be returning. Any lake you go on, there's always sandbars or sunken islands or things maybe hazardous in the water. If you're not familiar with those lakes, making sure to take the time to do some research before you go out on that waterway. Also making sure that if you are going to venture out onto the water that you're not familiar with, your speeds are lower. Certainly no high-speed boating after dark on many of our lakes, and being careful with just not to run aground. And we just had an injury this weekend where a boater lost control of their boat and was thrown into a dock, and a person was injured in it. Another boat had passed them. They got caught in the wake of the boat, we believe, and the boat driver lost control of his vessel running into a dock. So, just understanding to slow it down when you're out there and using good common sense and good judgment out there, and understanding that the lakes do get crowded, especially on the weekends. You have a lot of boat traffic out there. And if you're not familiar with those areas of the lake, where that traffic's going to be at on the water.
And I know that, of course, we fairly recently celebrated the Memorial Day holiday. That's a big weekend for people to start getting out on the water at the beginning of the season. But the biggest day, arguably, of the entire season, at least in our community, is the 4th of July weekend. And you think about some of those common problem areas like the sandbar on Cass Lake that, while people go out there aiming to have a good time and be with people that they enjoy being with over the holiday, sometimes that can get a little bit tough on the sandbar in Cass Lake. We know that that's a pinpoint for people in the city of Keagle Harbor. So when we get to those holiday weekends, and we know that we're going to have a busy time on some of those lakes, especially beloved places like Cass Lake, what factors should people, especially those coming into these communities, take into effect as they look to have a good time, but ultimately keep the community that they're coming into or the community that they're in safe in the process?
Cass Lake is a very popular destination in our county, and, we certainly want people to enjoy the holiday weekend. We want to have a safe weekend. 4th of July is considerably one of the busiest times in the Marine unit. That sandbar is averaging anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 people or more on it. A lot of drinking occurring on the holiday weekend. The deputies will be out in force again this year. You're looking at 19 to 20 deputies are deployed on that lake alone in our county. A lot of boat traffic. We certainly work very closely with our law enforcement partners, the DNR, and we definitely have a lot of officers out there looking for unsafe behavior. Again, if you're venturing out on the lake, again, taking a motor safety class, understanding the rules of the lake, understanding, and in moderation there is certainly a huge problem on that lake, is the alcohol consumption and just the sheer volume of people there on that lake on that holiday weekend.
Lieutenant Brian Burwell is with us on the Splash Live from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office as we are in now boating season. The summer weather is here in Greater West Bloomfield. It's here to stay, which means we're going to have people out on all of our different lakes across Greater West Bloomfield. It's one of the things that we love the most about our local community, but it's important that we make sure we go out with safety first and foremost. Lieutenant Burwell, anything else that the Sheriff's Office believes is vitally important for the people of Greater West Bloomfield to know that we haven't discussed yet today regarding boating season?
I think again, just Oakland County's got a lot of great waterways to enjoy, and we want everybody to have a safe summer. And just remembering to wear those life jackets. And again, we offer boater safety classes all throughout the summer and winter. There's no charge for any of that services. And again, just if people are going to venture out on the lakes, right before you leave that dock, take a minute just to go over your safety equipment. Even a lot of injuries occur at that dock when people are coming in. Don't let, your arms or legs get between you and the dock. Use the bumpers of the boat. A lot of injuries occurring right at the dock, people getting kind of caught between the dock and the boat. Just making sure you understand, if your equipment's in good working order, again, proper life jackets, and, again, moderation with the drinking on the water.
It all seems like second nature, but it only stays that way if you keep all this in mind all throughout the summer season. Lieutenant Burwell, again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Plenty of more helpful information and updates on oakgov.com/sheriff and on Facebook at OCSO Michigan. Follow all throughout the summer season for updates you'll need to know before you head out on the water all throughout the summer here on our beloved lakes in Greater West Bloomfield. I want you to take a moment with me, a second, to imagine a world where we don't have to make a bunch of phone calls, sit in a waiting room for hours on end, or save a date 6 months out to get helpful health information from our busy doctors and other healthcare professionals. Well, my friend, that's no longer mere fantasy. That's exactly what you'll get every summer at the Greater West Bloomfield Health and Wellness Fair, which is back on Wednesday, June 11th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at West Bloomfield Town Hall. It's a massive partnership between our local healthcare community, the township government, and of course, all put on by a business team that never takes a day off, the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. Joining me for even more information on the upcoming event is Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Suzanne Levine. Thank you so much for being here, Suzanne.
Good morning and happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday to you as well, as we're talking about this on a Monday edition of the Splash Live. The 16th Annual Health and Wellness Fair coming to Town Hall on Wednesday, June 11th. What can we expect in 2025?
You can expect the same great, diverse medical, health, and wellness vendors, businesses, organizations. West Bloomfield Hospital, again, is going to be a major standout at this event. And you can just really think about all the great networking. So if you're a business, you can come to network and learn more about some of the people that you may be able to partner with. And if you're the public, you're going to get lots of information about different opportunities to improve your health and wellness.
And it's an interesting event, too, because it allows people to come in and, like you said, if they're a business, they can network. But if they're an everyday person just strolling through the community, they got a little bit of time in that middle of the afternoon, in the middle of their week, they can get a lot of information in quick succession that can really help them and their loved ones. How much of an emphasis is there on that ability to be sort of a one-stop shop for people to get their questions answered in quick succession?
Well, it's really great because we have so many different kind of medical health and wellness businesses there that they can get a business card, they can, sort of explain their issues. All of these people that are attending will be able to at least connect with someone and, possibly make an appointment. I think it's such a great opportunity because we don't always know who the health professionals in our community are, and some of them, for whatever reason, aren't as well known. So this is just a great way for them to showcase what they offer. And I think that for our community, it's a great opportunity for them to get the information they need without, as you say, making 1,000 phone calls, having to Google, and we know that health and money are trust issues. So how great is it for them to actually talk to a human being and, perhaps, make a connection and feel the trust and the love that these people have for our community to make sure that we are very vibrant, because we know the older you get, the more involved you need to be in healthcare options. So I'm really excited because we have a lot of seniors that attend. They should bring their children because these are important decisions that they're going to have to make down the road.
And you're not only getting introduced to these resources, you're often interfacing with the very people that you would be meeting with if you make an appointment down the line too. And that's a really important part of this also, is to give people opportunities to meet the healthcare providers that we have here in Greater West Bloomfield, because what's impressive about our healthcare community in comparison and even in contrast to some of our neighboring communities here in southeastern Michigan is Greater West Bloomfield really does have a little bit of everything across the board when it comes to the healthcare community.
Absolutely. And we also have the aesthetic part. What did Billy Crystal used to say? It's better to look good than to feel good. But that's also important. So we have such a diverse group of individuals. We have physical therapists, we have some doctors, we have some med spas. We have our great Nina Lopayton, who is with Direct Hearing, and she will test hearing out for free. Because if you can't hear what's going on in a conversation, you're missing out of probably 90% of your life. And she's really great, a great resource to direct people, and there's no charge for that. So this is why it's such a great opportunity. We have Drip IV. We know that, boosting your immunity, especially during all these seasons, because we know that COVID and flu and colds are never going away. But if you can boost your immunity, what a great way to help stave off any of these diseases or help you fight them, so that if you do get them, you have a milder case of whatever's going around.
Suzanne Levine is with us on the Splash Live today, the Executive Director of the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. Their 16th annual Greater West Bloomfield Health and Wellness Fair is happening Wednesday, June 11th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at West Bloomfield Town Hall. More information on that and plenty of other summer fun from the Chamber can be found on westbloomfieldchamber.com. And Suzanne, 16 years now of this event at West Bloomfield Town Hall in partnership with all these different healthcare providers, local businesses, and of course, the Chamber. How have you seen this evolve in the past 15 years and ultimately lead to the purpose and the execution of it today?
Well, I've seen a great interest in this. In the beginning, we had a few people come in. In years past, we've had hundreds of people come in, but I think what's been really great about the evolution of the health fair is that there is a greater interest in learning more about how to take care of ourselves. And we know that that's sort of the secret key to making sure that you live a long, great life. And I love the fact that our seniors, we have a very vibrant senior community here. They're very active, and they are taking, the bull by the horns, and they want to know more about how they can prolong their lives, the great success of their lives. And we have so many different options in our community, and we're very grateful to the township for allowing us to, have this event in their township offices. It's a great event. It's easy access, and we have a lot of great partners like West Bloomfield Parks and Rec, and of course Civic Center TV, and Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. And so it's a great opportunity. We have healthcare providers like United Healthcare and HAP that are going to provide some of the information about different insurance options. And we have a Medicare specialist on site to talk about the different options. So this is such a great event because we have expanded who wants to attend it and who wants to participate in it.
So now that you've mentioned that, let's go through that information. Obviously, we got a bunch of these participants that come back every single year, like you had mentioned earlier on. But for other healthcare providers or health-adjacent professionals in our community, if they still want to participate, can they do so in this upcoming health fair?
Absolutely. We still have a limited amount of tables left. So if someone wants to contact me at wbloomfieldchamber@gmail.com, 248-626-3636, or even go online and register for this event. It is a little bit of an upcharge for non-members because we are always trying to promote our members, but certainly they're welcome to participate. So by the end of this week, it will be closed. So I urge them if they're interested. And it's really great because we have some new businesses that are participating, and I always welcome them because the more information you have, the better armed you are to make, intelligent, good decisions for you and your family.
Again, that is wbloomfieldchamber@gmail.com. Phone number 248-626-3636. You can also find that contact information on westbloomfieldchamber.com. June 11th, next week, Wednesday, from the time that we're having this interview live. Wednesday, June 11th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Registration for those businesses will close very soon. So if you want to get involved, now is the time to do so. Suzanne, on the other side, for patrons that will be attending this event, what do they need to know? Is there a fee to attend? Can they just walk in?
It's free to attend. There's lots of swag, so bring a bag, but I'm sure some of the vendors will have bags also. And just be prepared to, gather as much information as you possibly can, take business cards, make conversation, ask the hard questions. And if they can't answer it, then I'm sure, you can call the office and they'll give you someone that can. But this is really important because, as I say, I cannot stress enough, your health, there's nothing more important than your health and family. And this is a great way to gather information to make sure that you stay healthy as long as possible.
I owe Deanna Grove from Drip IV an injection. I told her last year I would do the electrolytes. I got too busy at the health fair. So much going on with our broadcast and our coverage out there and all the other business.
I'm going to make sure that I get one because I'll be running around.
Yeah, please. Absolutely. It's a busy day out there, but it's a good day out there. I'd encourage people to attend, or at the very least to stay tuned for our coverage on CivicCenterTV.com. We're joined by the Executive Director of the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, Suzanne Levine, on the Splash Live today. The Greater West Bloomfield Health and Wellness Fair, Wednesday, June 11th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at West Bloomfield Town Hall. Suzanne, before we let you go, anything else the good people of Greater West Bloomfield should know about this?
Yes. Just, come and spend as long as you want. It's a great event. And we sent out a flyer. We're really hoping that people will nominate people in our community for our Key to the Township Awards breakfast, July 30th at Wabi Country Club. And there's 5 different categories. And I'm sure everyone knows of a business person, an entrepreneur, spirit of the community, health and wellness. So please make sure that you nominate someone that doesn't always get, they all have to just live, work, or play. So the criteria is pretty open in our area. These are people that contribute to the well-being of West Bloomfield Township, and that's the health of our community. So in a way, it's kind of related.
Well, Suzanne, we appreciate you coming on to tell us more about this, and look forward to another fun day out at West Bloomfield Town Hall at the 2025 Health and Wellness Fair. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you again.
WestBloomfieldChamber.com is their website. You can follow them on Facebook for more information at West Bloomfield CC. This is only the first of many very fun events they will have going on all across our community all summer long, so stay tuned for even more information. That is our show for today. I want to remind you that television that's close to home is always online on CivicCenterTV.com and across our social media. I want to give a big thank you, as always, to our entire crew in the studio and out in the field. And, of course, thank you for tuning in as we enjoy the heat and the summer sunshine, reminding you can always be the sunshine in somebody else's day each and every day of our week. For our entire team, I'm Tyler Kieft, live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.